Five, four, three, two, one, cut, action. All right, welcome again to Stories of Women in Tech. Today, I have an amazing, I don't know, inspiring 23-year-old Gen Z founder, Ahana Banerjee. I just pray I did more than a name. I like to say people's name rightly. Ahana, did I pronounce your name well?
You did. Ahana is perfect.
Thank you so much. Okay, so can we meet you? Who are you? Who is Ahana Banerjee?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Ahana. I'm the founder and CEO of Clear, which is a skincare app. We help you figure out which skincare products to use and track progress to make sure the products you are using are actually working. Aside from my work, perhaps before I started the company, which was in 2021, I was a student. I was studying physics at Imperial College London. When I started my degree, I thought I'd end up in academia. During the degree, I tried a bunch of different careers. I tried software engineering, banking, consulting, and eventually found my way into entrepreneurship, which is where I am now. And I think career, professional stuff aside, I lived in the UK until I was 14. I am of Indian origin, and when I was 14, me and my family, we moved to India. I lived there for 2 years. And then when I was 16, we moved to Singapore. So I actually did my last 2 years at school in Singapore as well. So also kind of identify as a third culture kid, having moved around a little bit growing up.
Wow, that sounds like, I don't know, is it fun or was it fun? Or is it like, literally, you have no idea?
Yeah, I think it was like one of the most enriching experiences that you can give a child. I think the biggest thing is just seeing such a broad range of people growing up, because when I lived in the UK, I went to a regular state school, so met regular British people. Then when I moved to India, obviously it's a huge country change, so you get access to Indian people, and me being of Indian origin but not brought up very culturally Indian, it was also nice to learn more about my heritage and culture. But then I attended an international school, so it was actually an American school. So my friends and my teachers were Americans, and then there were other students from all over the world who were in similar positions. Their parents' jobs had taken them to India. So I then had exposure at the age of 14 to children from lots and lots of different countries around the world, lots of different backgrounds. And that was a similar experience in Singapore as well, where there were people from all across the world at my school. That the skills that you learn from firstly having to adapt to a country change as a child is hugely valuable in whatever you do after. But even, things like learning how to communicate with people from different backgrounds, cultures, just being able to empathize with a broader range of people because you understand where they're coming from. I think all of these things were really valuable. And of course, it was a lot of fun. I got to see a lot of the world while I was still very young. And so very, very
That's amazing. But I was going to say that ability to adapt to change is not like one major skill an entrepreneur would need. Like things are changing. Before this call, I know how you had challenges that you were fixing, and I'm like, do you say that prepared you to be more ready and open to changes?
100%. I think even just that open-mindedness, as a child, you can completely change your entire life. What school you go to, which friends you hang out with, what you do in your free time, what the cultural and social norms are in the country that you move to. I think that sets you up to just be quite open-minded in general. And when it comes to starting a company, I think that's crucial, because there is no exact set path. There is no one telling you what to do, and the way that you progress is through learning and adapting and trying new things. And if you're not open to that, it makes it really hard or really daunting to push forwards. So absolutely, I think it's going pretty deep, but I do think my childhood had a really big impact on where I am today, and of course my family support as well.
Well done. That's lovely. So do you have like a technical background? Because I heard you saying I had to make some fixes. I'm like, oh, interesting. Because these days, I don't know. Do you have technical background?
Yeah, so I studied physics at uni, and when I started my degree, I didn't have any prior programming experience at school. But as part of a physics degree, you have to learn how to code. In the degree, it's primarily Python that you learn, and you use it for simulations and for data analysis. And it was kind of through learning it through the degree that I tried to learn a bit more about coding in general. So I remember the summer of my first year, I did like an online Java course in my, I was doing an internship and kind of slacking off a little bit and doing the Java course during the internship. And the following summer, I did a more serious software engineering internship at a big investment bank where I was working with Python backend, and I was also doing the front end in Angular, so I learned JavaScript. And after that internship, I wasn't really sure that I wanted to be a software engineer. I think I kind of liked coding, but I just didn't see myself doing that full time. And so I didn't really think that those skills would come into good use. But then fast forward 2 years and I'm building my own app, and we don't use Angular, but we use React Native. So JavaScript, TypeScript. Came into very good use. And so for my company now, I built the first version of the app, which I launched in 2021. But then as soon as I was able to raise money and hire, I brought in people far more competent than myself to support me. But at the moment, as we talked about right before this call, I'm actually very much back in the code base, just because we had a huge influx of users recently, which was amazing. Like, that's one of the best things you can ask for. But at the same time, like, all of the bugs in the backlog, like all of the errors are just exacerbated. So there's just been a lot of work to do, and our team is still really lean. And so I've been joking with my team, I'm the CEO and the junior developer on the team.
I see what you mean. You wear different hats at different time, and yeah, that's beautiful. Honestly, I'm not even joking. So it makes me wonder. You just mentioned you did an internship in like an investment bank. At what point did you say, Hannah, I'm going to be an entrepreneur? What drove you? Because I'm like, a lot of people are thinking of how do I progress my career, how do I be promoted, and I know when I reached out to you, that was one thing that blew me away. So I'm like, how did you just make up your mind and say entrepreneurship as well?
Yeah, well, it didn't happen overnight, and I'd be lying if I said I came out of the womb born to be an entrepreneur. That's absolutely not how it was. As I said, when I started my degree, I wanted to be a physicist, and I think again, going a little bit deeper into why I wanted to be a physicist at the time, I think with my childhood, with seeing such huge extremes in privileges, in cultures, all of these things, I was acutely aware of how privileged I was in the type of education that I had. And I was good at school, so I knew that I could have some kind of impact. And so for me, that's what became most important. It sounds a bit naive almost, but just having some kind of impact on this world was the thing that was most important to me in my career. And of course, academic research is obviously beneficial for society, and I love physics, and I thought that's how I could contribute to society. When I started my degree, I didn't enjoy it very much for a variety of reasons, which we can get more into. But that forced me to almost have this existential crisis in my first year of, I've had this amazing education, I am capable, like I have so much to give, but if it's not going to be through physics, like how am I going to have an impact on this world? What am I going to do? And so I very proactively started applying for any and every internship. And at the time, I didn't have really any understanding of what any careers were. And even though the first internship I did was in software engineering, I just started learning how to code. I think I could do like a linear regression in Python, and that was the extent of my software engineering abilities. But I didn't care. I just applied to everything, whether it was tech, whether it was banking, whatever roles were available to undergraduate students, I applied for. And so it was through gaining those experiences on the internships, I started learning more about what mattered to me in my career. Like, was it compensation? Was it work-life balance? Was it learning and growing? Was it personal or career development? Was it the people I work with? There's all these different factors that when I was a bit younger, I didn't even think about. But as I started gaining more experiences, I wanted to do something that was positive. So gained some experiences in these different areas, and it was actually only after my second year of uni I got a message on LinkedIn one day from a student at a different university who'd just come up with this idea where he wanted to build a platform to match students who were looking for jobs with graduate employers, and he wanted someone with 3 skills. The first being at a London university, so could get students to sign up to it. Number 2, someone who could code and help him actually build out the platform. And number 3, someone who liked going to events at all these big companies and networking with the HR people to get them to pay for the platform. And he saw from my LinkedIn, because I'd done quite a few internships at that point, that I could be a good fit. And at that point, I hadn't considered startups as a viable career. At university, like it's not the done thing. I didn't have any friends who were into startups. Like I didn't really have any role models that I'd actually considered. Like, obviously you hear about the genius college dropouts who do XYZ, but no one within reach, no one that I could really see myself in their shoes. So it wasn't even really that much of a thought that I'd seriously become an entrepreneur at that point. And even just from, it sounds quite fickle, but like from a prestige point of view, everyone is chasing the big investment banks or the big tech companies or the big consulting firms. Like that's what like the good students do. That's not startups. Like, who's doing that, right? So at that phase of my life, I was still very much gunning for the bigger companies. But when this opportunity came along, it just sounded like a lot of fun. And coming back to that impact point, I thought, well, this is actually like very clear how you can help someone. So I gave it a go alongside my studies in my third year. And that was the first job that I did that I truly loved. And I remember the feeling like when we helped our first student actually get a job, I was like, wow, I have used my skills and my knowledge to actually deliver something of value, tangible, that I can see. I think then that became a feeling that I started chasing. And I also realized I was good at it as well. Like, I think the startups aren't for everyone at all. With all of the previous jobs I'd done, whether it was software engineering, whether it was, investment banking, there were things where I felt like I was good at it, I could have done it, but I'm not using like my maximum potential. I'm not really using all of the skills that I have in this job. As a founder, or working as an operator in a very early stage company, I really felt like I was thriving and shining and doing my best. And so it was at that point that I said, I think this is what I want to do, but it's not necessarily in this company, like with this idea. So my plan was to actually, backtracking a second, although I wanted to start my career, or although like I felt ready to be an entrepreneur at that stage, the thing holding me back was the funding, because I didn't want to be dependent on my parents financially when I finished uni. And at that point, getting funding for a company was not on my radar. Like, I didn't think that was an option. So my plan was to start my career in finance, which of all the internships I did, that was what I enjoyed the most. But for a couple of years, save up some money, be more sort of stable financially, and then leave and do my own thing. So that was the plan, and up to the point that I did secure grad jobs in banking and PE, and I was very happy to take them, very lucky to get those offers. But it was in the summer between my third and my fourth year. I was on a 4-year integrated master's program. So I'd already secured the grad jobs. I was quite relaxed going into my final year, but this was 2020, so COVID had hit, and I did a lot of extracurriculars and societies at uni, but because of the pandemic, they were cancelled. So I suddenly had a lot more free time than I did previous years. And I thought, well, if one day I want to be an entrepreneur, why not start something on the side of my final year? And it doesn't have to go anywhere. There's no pressure on this. Like, it can crash and burn, and I'll take my grad job and move on with my life. And best case scenario, it works out. And the best case scenario worked out. I applied to YCombinator, which is an accelerator program, with a week-old idea, expecting nothing. Really did not expect anything of it. I was an undergraduate physics student from the UK. Like, I know really even know what YC was at the time. So I went into it completely, naively optimistic, just like, yeah, let's go for it. Doesn't matter what happens. If I get rejected, like, I didn't need this anyway, it's fine. But ended up actually getting into YC halfway through the final year of my degree, which meant that I actually dropped out. So I dropped out, but I was able to graduate with a bachelor's degree. So I did get something out of the education. And because I had these graduate jobs, I was also able to get deferrals for them, meaning that I could effectively drop out of my degree, try building a company. If it doesn't work, I still have the safety net, which I think is important to point out. It wasn't just like, I'm going to drop out and not have any backup plan. I did have a pretty solid backup plan in place. And so that's kind of how it started. That was January of 2021, and it's now been 2 years and things are going strong. So I can definitely see myself doing this, hopefully for the rest of my career.
Oh, that's so sweet. Because, one would imagine that as a career person, you have the option of choosing this company, choosing that company, going a different route. But for an entrepreneur, you're stuck with this mission for a long while. So in my head, I'm like, why skin? Why skincare? What drove you? Or maybe I should backtrack a little. What is Claire? What does Claire do? Because I know Claire's about skincare. That's what I'm asking, but the viewers might not know. So what is Claire? What do you do at Claire? What was the idea about? How did you come about the name? I'm asking so many questions.
Yeah, no, but they're all great questions. So Claire it's a free app that helps you track and share your skincare routine. So it's really difficult to know which skincare products to use, which is where Claire comes in, because we have a community of people who are labeled by their skin types and concerns, and we aggregate that data to help make better recommendations for users. And we also have a skincare diary, because another problem is when you spend so much money on products, you're trying 15 different things, you don't know if it's working. And if you do have a condition where you see a doctor or dermatologist, or even just an esthetician or a friend who does facials, whatever it might be, it's difficult to know how your skin looked at a certain period when you were trying certain things. And I know this because I have suffered extensively with my skin, and hopefully I'm far enough away from the camera and the concealer is thick enough that you can't see.
Good.
But I have had really, really bad cystic acne, and even now actually I'm having a really nasty breakout, but I have become an expert in covering it up. But I've just dealt with my own skin issues for such a long time, and I spent pretty much like every day of my teenage years on Facebook groups, like on Reddit threads for skincare support, because it affected me so much. And I also, went through the doctor dermatologist route. More recently, I got a nutritionist. I've been trying a more holistic route. So I'm very much on my own journey with my skin. And so the reason for choosing to build a company in this space was partly selfish, because I wanted the solution. I wanted a way to know which products to use and track my own progress, communicate more easily with my doctors and dermatologists. And so I think that was a huge driver for it. But then even from like a career decision perspective, when I first started working on a company, I didn't actually apply to YCombinator with Clear, for the reason that I didn't think I'd get taken seriously if I was like skincare company. Like, it didn't, in this world of scary, aggressive people, if I want to be taken seriously, I'm already young, I'm already a woman, I'm already brown, which I think are all actually great things for building the company that I am. But on the face of it, sure, like there's a lot, it may be harder for me to build credibility. And so I thought, I should build like a B2B SaaS company, because no one will take the skincare idea seriously. But I think a huge part of being a founder is the founder market fit. Why are you the right person to fix this problem? And objectively speaking, skincare is a huge market, and there's a lot of money and untapped potential, because there are very few
potential players.
Exactly, there's very few people who love skincare and who can build apps and tech products. So I think from that perspective, it would be silly not to, because I love it. Like, a big part of building the company is talking to users, understanding their problems, and I can talk about skincare with people all day. Like, that's amazing to me that that's part of my job. and I'm close to that community already. So even from an acquisition perspective, getting those first sort of 100, 500 users, I was already deeply ingrained into the community. So even just from like, how do I do my job perspective, how do I get users? There was a clear path, there was a more clear go-to-market for me. And so, I think it was this whole combination of, I deeply understand the problem, I'm really ingrained into the community, and this is, it's impactful to me. I know how awful it feels to go through these issues, and if I can help someone figure out which product to buy, or save a bit of money because they're not trying 20 different things, or even just find people with skin like them. If someone else can see, okay, she has brown, oily, acne-prone skin, and this is how she's feeling, and it just comforts someone, then I have had an impact, and I'm on my way to achieving my goals.
Wow, that's amazing. So what has been your biggest win so far?
Honestly, there've been a lot, and I think something that I have actually realized is I don't celebrate the wins very much, because with every win there is like the next challenge, and I have this bad habit of living in the future and never in the present. But I think, getting into YCombinator is what enabled me to build a company at this stage of my career. That was how I started the company, and that was a huge win, because without that, I'm not sure I would have had the opportunity to do this at this stage. So I think like just being able to start the company through YC was huge. Getting that funding, raising the first funding round as well was a big achievement. It was very painful though. Like, even though that was a big win in the end, it was also the biggest challenge I've had, and which is maybe why it was so rewarding when I finally did raise the money I had to, because I know what I went through to raise it. I think hiring our tech lead, Charles, like, he has changed the company. I think he is fantastic and has shown to me how valuable having a great team is. We won a competition run by L'Oreal last year, which really helped us as well. Lex, their UK CMO, has helped us tremendously, has maintained the relationship, and being able to learn from an organization like L'Oreal. With us being a new startup, we're able to have a different take on things than a much larger player, but being able to have access to their insights has helped us a lot as well. So there've actually been like a lot of great things that have happened, but maybe it's a bit of a shame. Like, I've never gone out and celebrated or opened a bottle of champagne, because with every win it's like, great, I've raised my funding round, now I have to hire the right people, now I've hired an amazing person, now we gotta like build the product, get the job done. So
now I feel like I owe you a party. I need to like throw you a party and say, Ahana, come on, celebrate yours. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna just throw you a party so that you can just take a deep breath and just celebrate your major wins, because that is major for anybody. It's major. Congratulations, well done.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so I was going to ask you if that is your biggest challenge. A lot of women, and not just women, but because this platform is for women, have had challenges raising money, talking to investors. Black founders all around the world don't even have the same quota. I don't want to quote statistics, but the statistics are there. Not talk of women, or then women of color. So I'm like, how did you go about it? You said you had challenges. How did you work around it? What was your learnings that you're willing to share with us?
Yeah, I learned a lot from the experience, and I think I was always someone who, before fundraising, I was of the opinion that pointing out that like I'm a woman doesn't have any impact. Women and men are equal. Like, I'm as good at my job as a man is, and I really had that opinion because I don't think I'd really faced the adversity, and I thought I was like, my degree was 80% men, 20% women, so I was used to that. Or my tech internships, I was one of the few women, or even in the banking finance internships, I was one of the few women, and I never felt that it hindered me. And because of that, I came into building the company with that same sort of, it doesn't matter, like, it doesn't matter what gender I am, what color I am, whatever. And for the first part it didn't, right? Like I actually am a somewhat competent developer. I can build an app, and maybe the fact that I'm young means I've got more hours in the day available to me. I don't have other responsibilities. Or when it comes to talking to users about skincare, maybe the fact that I am a young brown woman is an advantage, because people will feel more comfortable talking about these things with me than they would a more stereotypical founder. But fundraising was the first time where my opinion on this topic was changed, because I ended up having to do over 200 meetings to raise my funding round, and that meant more than 10 meetings a day sometimes, and it was painful, right? Because you're giving the pitch of your company, you're answering the same questions, getting the same, really harsh scrutiny. Then in between your next meeting, you're getting a rejection from yesterday about why someone's not investing, and then you have to pick yourself up. And to do that 10 times a day is emotionally it's because that's all you've worked for. When you are an early stage, your company is your identity, which maybe it shouldn't be, but it is. You've put everything into it, and it was hard. It was really, really hard. And I got to about, I'd say, like 70% of my final funding. And I sat down and I just thought, is it just me, or like all my investors women? And I went and took a look at some of the stats of who I'd had meetings with, who invested, and how much money they invested. And of all the 200 meetings I did, about 75% of them were with male investors, which is to be expected, because there were just more male investors. In terms of number of investors on my cap table, it was about 80% female. And in terms of actual dollars I had raised, so now accounting for how much money each investor gave me, 90% of the dollars I have raised, the decision has been led by a female investor.
Wow.
The numbers don't lie. And I was like, that's interesting. And that was the turning point for me, where I thought, actually, I'm not doing myself any favors, or other female founders any favors, by having this attitude of, it doesn't matter if you're a woman. It does. The numbers don't lie.
Wow.
I believe I am as competent as my male counterparts. I still, of course, believe that.
Yeah.
Now I have seen firsthand that you can be as competent, you can have as much traction, but it is not the same experience fundraising. It is different, and it's important to point that out. And I don't think it's I don't think investors hate women of color. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's more the way that fundraising works. The fact that, there's this warm introductions culture, and people invest in their friends. It's all of these things that end up making it harder for women of color to raise. And in my position, I was basically a student when I was fundraising. I didn't have a network of investors. And then putting myself in an investor's shoes, if I'm meeting you for the first time, I've got 30 minutes to decide whether I'm going to give you a large chunk of money or not. And I have a friend who I've known for 5 years, who has worked at Goldman Sachs for 3 of them. He has a proven track record. And this girl, even though she seems impressive, I don't know, I've just met her.
I get you.
What decision do you make? Of course, you go for what you know and what you understand. And then for us, there's the added layer that we are a skincare, our market serves a skincare industry. And the skincare industry is huge. And when I talk to women, I don't have to say that. They understand that it's a very lucrative market. I went into investor meetings with certain male investors who told me flat out, skincare is not a market. Self-care is a market, skincare is not a market. Or cosmetics is a market, skincare is not. And so when the person on the other side of the conversation has no understanding of your domain, it makes it harder. Again, people invest in what they understand. And if you pitched me on a football company, I probably wouldn't be interested, because I don't get it very much, So it's not because they're bad, it's not because they want to discriminate, but it's just the nature of there not being enough women of color on the other side of the table, and some of the dynamics that happen when it comes to fundraising. And so it was tough, and it made me sad, because it was the first time that I realized that actually, this world isn't all fairies and rainbows, and these things that you read about and these dire statistics, I'm not surprised, because it was really, really hard. But I think for me, what worked was honestly just persevering and finding the believers. I think at the early stages, when it's more a bet on the founder than it is the company, because the company's just not been around for that long, it's a tough job to convince people to support you. So you have to find people that are the type that will already believe in you, which is hard to do. And for me, it was through just trying to network as much as I could during my fundraising process. So whenever I ended a meeting, whether the person invested or not, I said, like, who do you think would be interested? And just try to go through these networks as much as I could to find someone who would possibly be interested in me or the company. But, I think the other thing that really helped me was just trying to mentally reframe it, because as I said, it was exhausting. Like, it was really, and it's quite demotivating as well to do, to go through something like that. But I think, in other facets of building the company or life in general, I haven't been afraid to hear no. I think, like, that's why I applied to YC. That's why, if I talk to a brand partner, they don't want to partner, or if I ask you to download my app and you say no, I can take it. Like, I don't get offended. And I think when it came to fundraising, the way I tried to frame it was, I could not be fundraising right now. Like, I could have chosen a different path that may have been easier in some ways. I could have gone down the finance route. I could have waited to build up my network more and maybe raised at a time when I was in a better position to do so. But did I want that? And the answer was no. I consciously chose to pursue this path now. And at the end of the day, whether this individual investor invests or not, the fact that at the time I was 22, that at this age, these people are even taking me seriously, and I'm in the position where I am raising money for the company that I have built, is a huge privilege at the end of the day. And and this was a choice. If I didn't want this challenge, I could have chosen another route. But would I rather be on this route and experiencing this challenge or not? And the answer is, I would choose this route every time. And because of that mindset shift just helped me not get so bogged down after every no or after every meeting that didn't go so well, because I tried to just see it as, like, you can't lose if you learn, and I am learning whether this person invests or not.
Wow. That is a lot of gems and wisdom you just just sprayed us with. Because I'm like, how did you stand the nose? And hearing how you said you're kind of used to the nose, especially why you would have applied to YC at that stage of your life. Yeah. Sometimes the no's are like a redirection, even when we do not like them.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm so glad. So, well, based on your experience now, will you say other women should tread this path or not? And if you're saying they should, how will you say they should do it differently or not differently? I don't know. Yeah, over to you.
I think the answer to, like, should women do this is, it depends. I don't think this is for everyone. I think it's hugely rewarding. There are many benefits. There's also many disadvantages. I earn a lot less money than I would have in a traditional job. I have less free time. I have to work weekends. I have to work long hours. If something goes wrong in any facet, if the app breaks in production, as it did earlier, that's my responsibility. If I have a contract to a brand partner and they're angry, it's my responsibility. If I have to fire someone and they get upset, it's me who has to take the brunt of that. So these are a lot of things that you go through, which you don't have to go through in other careers. There's also no one holding your hand, especially for somebody like me at this career stage. If I went into another job, I would have someone I could ask questions to. And of course, fortunately, I do have that now because I have proactively sought out mentors.
Yeah.
But on your own, you don't have anyone. On your day-to-day work, there isn't just like, oh, I can't do this job, let me just ask my manager to do this. There's that you don't have that same support network. These are downsides of the job. And I think that it's important not to overly glamorize the startup life of being your own boss and doing all this stuff, because yes, there is immense satisfaction that can come from it, but there's also a lot of really unpleasant stuff behind the scenes that you don't have to deal with if you choose a different
full-time job or a career path.
Exactly. So I think it depends on you as a person and what's important to you. Is it work-life balance? Is it money? Is it satisfaction? Is it the people? Like, I think it's a very individual choice as to what matters to you. And if, like, you know, I think if impact is the thing that or impact and I'd say personal growth are the things that are most important to you, then without a doubt, I couldn't have learned more, I don't think, from any career than I have with this. And so for that, I can 100% vouch that you will learn a lot by being a founder. But it comes at a cost. If I wanted to buy a house or something like that, this is not the career path to take. I don't have as much money. You know, if I wanted to, like, I have a stable relationship. If I wanted to find a partner, I don't know, if I was single, maybe I would want a job that didn't demand so much. All of these things are real considerations that you have to think about. So in terms of, like, should women do this, it depends on your situation and what matters. But if you choose to, I think recognizing that there are some disadvantages in places is important. I don't think it does anyone favors to say, oh, like, you know, when you're raising money, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. That's just like, and I say that having formerly held that view before I went through it properly. Now I like to think I have grown and I have learned and I've understood that that's not the case. So I think that accepting that there are barriers in the way, but it's not impossible. And to be honest, even like fundraising isn't easy for anyone. When you are a founder, there will always be challenges, whether it's funding, whether it's developing the product, whether it's team related things. If you go in with the mindset to expect challenges, like the fundraising, some of the injustices will just be another challenge for you to deal with. But it is possible and you can get through it. And importantly, by pushing through, you set an example and make it slightly easier for the next generation. And that was another thing that honestly helped me push through. Not even like clear related, but just if I can push another girl
and do it
just to deal with it so that they are in a position to build their own companies and have that kind of impact, then I have also succeeded in my job of having an impact. And I really think that part of the problem of not having enough female founders and not having enough, you know, female investors is because it's tough. It's tough for the female investors to get to their positions of power too. So by pushing through, you are setting an example that it's possible and hopefully encouraging other women or people that, you know, can empathize with you that it is doable, and it's a challenge, but you are capable of facing it.
Thank you so much. Because in my head, I'm like, soon enough, you might want to go the VC route, and then you are also on the other table adding more women to like fund ideas. So rather than women, you know, we talk about these issues and they are real, like you just pointed out. These are real issues. We shouldn't just stand by the lines and talk about it. We should also get into the ring. It might be tougher for the first set of women, but as soon as the first set comes in, you go in to make it easier for the next set of women come in till this is a normal thing. So yeah, that's beautiful. Maybe one day you'll be funding people up and down and like, I just funded $1 million company. Yeah, I just did this. We never
can. So. Fingers crossed.
All right. This was a beautiful session. To round off, I have a very funny question for you. So, do you have friends?
I hope so. Do you have friends? Yeah, I think so.
I know you say you're so busy. I'm like, does she have friends? Okay. So if you have friends, what do your friends think about you in like a sentence?
Yeah, that's such an interesting question. I think it really depends on the friend because I have different friend groups and like I think the different groups perceive me quite differently based on like exactly like what capacity they know me. I think generally everyone would say that I'm hardworking and I'm quite driven. Like I think
you are.
I think that comes through in every facet. But then my, like, I think it's difficult. So I used to play in a band, so I've got like music friends, and then I like to play computer games, and like those set of friends would probably see me quite differently from like my music friends, who would see me differently from my university physics friends. So yeah, I don't know. I think like the hardworking and driven points, they shine through in every facet. And I think everyone would agree that I am very, like, especially at this stage, very career driven, which is something that like I am proud of, and it matters to me as well. But I am trying to like not let my whole career become totally synonymous with my identity, because like I am hopefully more than my career.
Yes, you are.
But I think for like my own happiness and sanity, it's important not to get too attached with like the successes and the work, because things can go wrong, and that's really a horrible feeling when that happens, if you have this mindset.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on Stories of Women in Tech. It was really, really, really nice, listening to you. I really enjoyed my time. I hope you enjoyed yours too.
I did. Thank you for all the lovely questions. I really, really enjoyed the conversation, Victoria.
All right. Thank you guys for watching.